So today we're going to be doing another flush of the heater matrix core. So far at the moment we've had a water pump and thermostat housing replacement done, because as you can see on this one we had a massive large chunk cracked out, which was causing an extremely big coolant leak. And there's the rain. So what we did yesterday was we did a very basic flush of the heater core, which we've now taken it from freezing cold to slightly warm. So today we're going to give it another go, see if we can get a bit more heat out of it. So the best way to tell if it's a heater core is blocked is while the engine is up to operating temperature, about 90 degrees. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to keep the engine off. But just down here, there are two pipes. One here, and the one just below it there. They are the heater pipes straight through from the main cooling system into the matrix. Best way to tell, like I said, if it's blocked, and also to tell which one's the inlet and the outlet, is put your hand down here while the engine's running, up to operating temperature, and feel the two. If there is a large difference in temperature, that usually means there's a blockage, so the hot coolant is not getting through. Also, it tells you that the hot one is the inlet and the cooler one is usually the outlet. In this case, because they are rubber pipes going on to solid pipes going through the core, the best thing to do is find where the rubber pipings travel to for a bit easier access. In this case, they run through just over the gearbox down there and mount into the engine about here. So for this, we're going to remove the airbox and the MAF, a little bit of piping, just so we can get easier access to it. So first off, to remove the airbox, on here there's one bolt. So we've got a little hexagonal section here, right down here. Nice and tight, there we go. Then we unscrew it. Unscrews all the way, but does not actually come out. And then all we have now is some little pops here. There we go. There we go. All right. Also, we have to take off the intake off the front. Next up, we have to remove the actual MAF sensor cable. Nice and easy. Next up, get a set of pliers. Just so we can remove the MAF connector. Pull it off. Around so I can actually get to it better. There we go. And it's off. There we go. So next, put that last pop to come off. There we go. These long hose and twist it underneath. All right. So that's off. Once that's off, we then have full access in to our hoses. Here we have the two hoses that I was mentioning about. The inlet and the outlet. I'm just going to take off this cover just to give us a little bit more access. Stop now. Okay, so we're going to disconnect the outlet hose first. For this, I am using a 932 long reach socket and a 1/4 inch drive. I'll put it onto reverse. This takes quite a while. Alright. So once that's released, try and get the Jubilee clip over the lump. There we go. All right. Now before we actually release any of the fluid, I'm getting my tray underneath. There. So any fluid will run straight onto the gearbox and then underneath. If I was to go out and get more items, I would get some clear hosing as well to connect it up. But this works just as well if you're on a budget and saving a bit of time. Next up, we're going to disconnect the inlet hose, which is a little more tricky. There we go. They are now both disconnected. So what I can do from here is pull off the hose, which is a bit of an awkward one. You can see fluid is already leaking out. There we go. Going into my bucket nicely. Brilliant. I'm going to remove this so it doesn't get lost. Stick it up there. Next I'm going to bring up the inlet. Once again, fluid leaking out into my bucket collected air. All right. So it's now all leaking out. As you can see, our reservoir is now empty. So the best thing to do now is to try and actually flush through everything that's in the system, the way I do it. Is I use the end of the hose, remove any connector. As you can see, obviously this hose is substantially different size to both the inlet and the outlet hoses. So what I do from there, get some more rubber gloves, get a few of them together, and just wrap it around the end of the hose. So what I'm going to do is refit our Jubilee clamp onto here, and then we stick the hose in. Something that might be a bit helpful is getting some needle nose pliers and just pushing it in, making sure we get the maximum seal possible so we don't lose any water out. Next up, we get our 1/4 inch drive again. And
tighten up the Jubilee. Which is a bit awkward in such a small little space.
Our Jubilee's just come off. There we go. So sometimes take it off, turn it by hand, it's a bit easier than trying to ratchet it round. So I have tightened it up fully around where the gloves are inside here. So next step, turn on the hose, and hopefully we'll see a lot of sludge and coolant coming out of here. So hose is on, as you can see. Lots of horrible sludge coming out. Not a nice colour at all. It's gradually getting clearer and clearer and clearer. There we go. So you can see on the picture here that it's nice and clear now, which means all the sludge, any cleaner, coolant has all been flushed straight out. What I'm going to do is leave that for a while to try and force any blockages that are still in the matrix to be pushed out. So obviously, as you saw, this car, it was a bit foamy and pink. Obviously the pink was the coolant that we filled from before. It wasn't quite so bad as a lot of cars because we did previously flush it yesterday, which got rid of the vast majority of debris, gunk, everything that was already inside. So this time all we're doing is just trying to clear it a bit more. We may have to do it another couple of times just to make sure that we have the system as clear as possible. As you can see, we're still coming through with a decent flow. In fact, it's actually got heavier, which is a good start. Which means that, so after a while of running it, we've now turned it off. The water was running very clear and quite a decent flow. So what I'm going to do is show you some of the fluid that's come out of it. As I said before, it's not as bad as it was yesterday due to the fact we flushed it yesterday, but you can still see there's quite a lot of coolant and a bit of scum in there as well, which we've helped flush out. So what we're going to do is dispose of this, and then we're going to flush the system through with some actual coolant system flush. So what we're going to do now, as I said before, is actually put some coolant system flush through. In order to do that, we have to once again remove this clamp so we can actually get our hose system out. Sometimes you could just pull. There we go, straight out. And then we can try and remove the clamp again. A bit of water still. Okay, so let's tighten up. So the flush we're using is Wynn's radiator flush. We got this from Eurocar Parts. I think after discount it was about £4.50. So what we're going to do with this is try and undo it first. There we go. Here's the lid, so we can actually get into it. And what we're going to do next, if I can keep that upright, is get the outlet pipe again. Try and get it as high as possible out of the engine bay. So about there is absolutely fine. And then I'm gonna stick a funnel in the top and slowly pull this in. What you'll probably see down here is as I pour fluid in here, eventually some water will start flowing out as we are pushing it out with the weight of this fluid going in. Everybody has their own different methods of doing this. This is mine and it seems to have worked so far. So try and get as much of this fluid into the actual heater matrix as possible, ejecting as much water as possible as well. So this one is a 325 milliliter bottle. And now what we're going to do is leave that for a short while, let that settle in there. Hopefully it'll break out any debris, dirt, blockages that are in there, as it is slightly denser than water. And then what we're going to do after that is flush it through with some water again and clear it through. Hopefully any debris that has been loosened by the fluid will be pushed out when we use the hose again. So after about half an hour wait and some new gloves, we're ready to flush out the system, get rid of any of that coolant flush that we put in the first place. So once again, as we did last time, we're getting the end of the hose, rewrapping those rubber gloves to help with that seal. Take the funnel out. Let's stuff it back in again. Once again, stuff it in. Try and get as much of a seal as you can. Okay, nice and far. And then again, I'm going to tighten this connector up. Okay, so that should be a pretty decent seal around there now. So what I'm going to do now is turn the hose back on and we'll watch what comes out of it. So you can see, pouring out a load of gunk, lots of mess. Most of that will be the cleaner. It's gradually getting a bit clearer. You can still see there's a lot of foam in there. We want to make sure that the water that's inside the system is completely pure. We don't want any of that to be left in the system. So just wait for it to flush out for a while.
So we let it flush out for a little while. As you can see, the actual flow that's coming out of there, even from when we started this time, is probably 50% more than it was before. So what we're going to do now is turn the hose back off, disconnect it all up, and then we're going to fill the heater matrix up with coolant to remove all the water. Obviously, you want coolant in the system, not just plain water. I'm going to show you what's come out as well. As you can see, a lot of foam scum. It's a bit discoloured as well, it's quite dark underneath. So that's just proven that it's helped clear a lot of stuff out. So let's get that out of the way. We're going to undo the clip. We'll pull it enough, and then we should be able to just pull the hose and elastic band out, like that. So that's to the outside, shouldn't need that anymore. What I'm going to do is fully undo this connector by taking it off. It's just a quicker way of doing it to its loosest point, because it won't fit over the ridge otherwise. So that's about as far as that'll go. Stick that out to the side. And what we're going to do next is do our 50-50 concentration of water and coolant, and we'll pour it through the system. So I'll get that prepared now.
You ready? You started? Okay, so what we're doing here is we've got deionized water, our concentrate coolant solution, and a jug. And what we're going to do is measure out the 50-50 between the two. So what we do now is once again get the outlet hose, as that is the one right at the bottom. Bring it right up to the top as well. Refit our funnel. I'll put my bucket back underneath and gradually pour coolant in. And we're going to hopefully watch the water flow out the bottom, and we'll keep filling until it's coolant that's pouring out the bottom. As you can see, it's starting to pour coolant out, which means the matrix is almost full from top to bottom. So I'll pour a tiny bit more through. just to ensure that we have got all of the water out of the system. And by the looks of it, that is now completely coolant in there. So what we're going to do now is reattach our Jubilee clip onto our outlet, feed it through underneath, into our retaining clip, and then reseat it, ensuring we get it all the way through to the base. There. What we do now, bring the Jubilee clip over, back into the point where it was initially, which is roughly here, and then by hand or however you want to do it, tighten the clip right up. Ensuring we keep the position correct to give us the best seal for the connector. Then we tighten it up nice and tight. There we go. So that's nice and tight there. And next, what we're going to do, get our inlet pipe and also seat it as far as possible onto there. What we have to do now is try and get some pliers onto these clips, slide it around, reposition the pliers, and push the clip on to the same place that it was on before. Once again, ensuring we have the best possible connection on there. So that's nice and tight. That was nice and tight. Then what we do is come over to the coolant overflow reservoir. Funnel. Once again, fill up the reservoir. You won't notice it filling up straight away, it'll be filling up some of the pipes as well, and then gradually it'll start filling up the actual reservoir as well. What we've got to do now is do another jug full of water and coolant. And what we're going to do now is get it up to the maximum line to start off with. Just around about there. Then while leaving the cap off the reservoir to ensure that any air can escape, we turn the engine on, let it circulate for a few minutes, get a bit of temperature into it, and what should happen from there is the coolant that's in here will fill up any gaps with air. The air will come straight through to the overflow reservoir and escape out of the top. 99% of the time you will notice the coolant level will drop right down, which is good. It means it's filling up all the air pockets inside the coolant system that we created through the flush. And then all you do is top it up to the maximum line again, get the car, go for a good drive, get the car up to operating temperature, and give it another check. If once again it's below minimum or even below maximum, top it up to anywhere between the two, and maybe check it kind of the next day just to make sure that everything's okay as well. So as you can probably see, even from 20 seconds of running, the coolant level has dropped right down to the bottom of the overflow reservoir. So what I'm going to do is re-top it back up. To the maximum line. I'm going to run it again, and hopefully it'll stay about the same this time. So you can see there was a slight increase and then drop in coolant level. So for the last time, we just ensure that the actual coolant level is close to the maximum line, which is about there. Remove our funnel and then refit our cap to keep the pressure in the system. And now all we've got to do from there is reconnect up our airbox system, which is here. The box is roughly in place. We then guide it to about here, fit the little pops, and then reattach the connector, ensuring it's quite tight. What we then do is find the airflow meter connector, refit it, pop down the locker, refit the intake box, there we go, connect the two halves together like that, reattach the top. And now all we've got left is to refit onto the MAF, which is awkward, but there we have it. There we go, all seated. And that is now everything all back together, connected up. Coolant is on the maximum line still, which is perfect. And now to try get the heating sorted, we'll go start the car up, take it for a short drive around, try and get the coolant up to 90 degrees, and then we'll let you know how the heating is going basically. As you can now see, we've got the temperature of the cooling system up to 90 degrees. And what we've done now is we've put the temperature dials up to high. Before this, the temperature was mildly warm coming out of here. Right now, put my hand on it, it's quite hot. So it's definitely improved it. It might be worth giving it another flush or two and maybe doing a full system flush to get the most out of it. But from what it was for the last 2 years of ice cold, no heating at all, it's definitely an improvement.